Over the past 3 years, the EuroHealthy project has worked on advancing knowledge on policies with the highest potential to enhance health equity across Europe. The main findings were presented in Brussels in November 2017. This meeting was attended by relevant stakeholders from the European Commission and Member States, including researchers and representatives of international bodies and civil society.
So the first value, I would say, which underpins this project is the value of solidarity, a concern for social justice. The second value which underpins this project, I would say, is, let me call it science into action. The strength of this project is that it has assembled this multidisciplinary team, this international team, which brings a range of different perspectives to bear on the question of what health inequalities in Europe are and what drives health inequalities. So, one of the other strengths, I think, of the project is that it has focused very strongly on trying to build tools which are usable by decision makers, by policy makers at different levels within Europe, which are usable by different stakeholders in this particular space, to help them think about, to help them understand, to help them conceptualize, and ultimately to help them to take action to address the determinants of health inequality in Europe.
Healthy Europe is addressing two very important dimensions, the equity dimension and the health information dimension. The equity dimension is obviously at the heart of the European idea, in the sense of that one of the missions of the ideas behind the EU is, of course, to learn, to bring countries together and to learn to improve in areas such as also in public health, and do that by comparison and looking into how issues are addressed.
During this meeting, the EuroHealthy Atlas of Population Health in European Union regions was officially launched. An online geographical platform, WebGIS, was presented. These outputs compile evidence on the application of the Population Health Index to the European Union regions. This tool measures population health in multiple dimensions of health determinants and health outcomes.
And often we look at the outcomes and we forget about the determinants. And to change the equity in health outcomes, we need to change the inequity in determinants. And that's the way to approach it. And this project is one of the few that brings it together and looks at the determinants from a social, economic and environmental perspective, which is not something you see every day. And I would like to emphasize it's done for a wide range of determinants, and it brings it down to subnational level, which you usually don't find in national reporting.
How important to have this index and to communicate this to the public and to health decision makers on the perspective of transparency and democracy. It's a very, very important value. People looking at this and are assessing it's being made. It's very much a policy perspective and democracy, like in that we strongly defend in European countries.
This event was a unique opportunity to bring together all the EuroHealthy experts and stakeholders and to collect feedback on the project's outputs.
We need them to show that in their life cycle, in their political life cycle, they'll have data to show, and that is possible today. And I honestly believe that this tool can actually serve as a base to fight inequalities and to do what Nelson Mandela has said, that nations should be judged not by the way they treat the highest citizens, but the lowest. And that is what I think we should all be focusing on. Thank you.
Policy implications are all levels, from the European level to the local level. In fact, I missed some of these policy implications in part of the fact sheets. And from the point of view of health advocacy, it's a powerful tool, all of the work you have done.
To be involved in this project, it was really fruitful for us to think again about lack of data. East Europe has really lack of data, especially in the level of NUTS 2 and NUTS 3 almost doesn't exist, especially in the health matters.
I'm from a local government, so I didn't participate in the research, but in Utrecht we have done lots of research on public health for the last 20 years, and we have a public health monitor in our city, and the last 8 years we have made a huge step forwards because we could collect digital data, so that is very good, but what we also see is that it's getting much more difficult because of legislation. So 4 years ago we have made huge progress in collecting data and finding intelligence about the public health of our city, but nowadays it's getting much more difficult because local partners are not giving us the data anymore.
So that's our territory, is actually working with this information and trying to use it as it's been described, to see what changes and what those methods are, not data, what the methods are of practice that change health.
And I was invited into the project as a stakeholder to try to voice some concerns on behalf of public health researchers in a group that researches health inequities in Slovakia, but also on behalf of segregated Roma, an ethnic minority quite present in all of Central and Eastern Europe, and this is because we do quite a lot of qualitative research with these people. So, and as a stakeholder, having this experience of being brought into this project as a stakeholder, I would like to thank, that's my first comment, I would like to thank for how we try to engage stakeholders.
To share some thoughts as a stakeholder on the Lisbon case. It will be more a qualitative of the case. So how important is to engage a number of stakeholders in the city, putting them all together and making some consensus on the priorities of the health issues in the city, as well as being guide those stakeholders on selecting some kind of interventions they can do altogether.
The work developed under the EuroHealthy project was acknowledged as a meaningful advance for population health measurement and a starting point for policy dialogue. Final remarks emphasized a multi- and transdisciplinary approach and the participation of stakeholders.